Hello, thank you for viewing this video. I'm going to go over the source code right now. And on the main camera, this is the main camera, we have a load main menu script, which I'm going to edit right now in front of you. This is the script for the logo. It's fading the logo out and it's fading the logo in. This is what this script is doing. It basically just changes the color and the alpha of the logo. And after this is done, the next scene is loaded. This is the code for that, for loading the next scene. There's a timer variable here. Now we'll take a look at the music loader, which is here. The music loader is just a script which does not destroy, and this script is responsible for the music that you hear in the game. So this is never ever destroyed during the entire game. It is instanced on the main menu logo scene, and then it stays for the entire duration of the game. It is called every single time the scene is loaded. Another scene is loaded, that is. However, the music does not change because it's been coded that way. We'll go over to the main menu scene now. On the main menu scene, this is the graphics that you gave us. We have an autoloader object here, which is an autoloader object, and over here we have got strings. These strings are for the player pref keys. This is for the values that we store and we want to save. For example, the username and the remove ads key. We also have seeker selected and hidden selected, which is to save the value of the selected hidden or selected seeker players or skins. So we are basically using the script to initialize some of the player prefs, and the values of the strings will be used to store the seeker or hidden selected skins. This is the string values are mainly used in the shop. We'll go over to main camera, and over here we've got a starting resolution script, which is basically just a few lines of code for handling the resolution of the screen. We'll go to this autoloader again, and over here we've got main screen loader, which is another script, and this script is only storing the values of the different screens, or holding the game objects, the different screens that are on in the scene right now: main screen, shop screen, and server screen. We'll go to the main screen now. Over here we've got buttons, and these buttons have got functions. Right over here, so the play button has this function, the help button has this function. Has nothing right now because there is nothing on the help button right now. We've got a remove ads button. Again, there's nothing over here. I believe there's a remove ads script, but it's not really doing anything. Yeah, it's not really doing anything at the moment because we don't have anything on the remove ads right now. And we've got some input fields right here. This input field is responsible for storing the value of whatever the username the player inputs, and it's also stored in the autoloader script that I mentioned before. So this is where it's stored right here. This is the code for that, for storing the username. Once we go over the shop screen is slightly long, so I'll just try to cover it cover the most important bits. So over here we've got a generic script for all of the seeker characters, so I'll just show one of them. I apologize, my mouse is troubling me today. Okay. So over here we've got the selected seeker character script 1, which is attached to the first skin, and you can't see that right now, but that's because the shop screen is closed. But if you load the character, the hidden character, this is where the script is attached. It's attached to all characters that are in the shop screen individually. So you can see Seeker Character Title 1, and this is where it's attached. Let's take a look at some of the buttons and see if there's script attached. There is one, I believe. Yeah, there they are. There are scripts attached over here as well, but we'll take a look at this one first. Over here we have got a reference for the Seeker Selected Button handler, and we have this character number which we are passing in the inspectors to tell the game which character this is. I believe it's the first character. I think the value is 0. Yes, the value is 0. So the value is 0 because this is the first character, and this is the game object over here. An array of game objects which are button types, and these are basically inside this this script, because we need to turn all the other buttons off if one of the characters is selected, or just change the value of them. So once the button is clicked, and you'll see where this is. Yeah, so this is what's going to happen. In the on enable, we actually set the key value over here, and then we also have the Seeker key from autoloader stored over here. Then we've got button image handler and selected text handler. So what we are essentially doing is, first of all, we are handling the button, which is over here. Okay, so what are we doing? We are basically handling the button that you see when the game is started. So if the character key is equal to 1, which is of course the key that we select, if it's 1, then we are actually going to set the button type. There are two button types. One of them is for when the character is bought, and the other is for the character is not bought. So when it's bought, then we are going to actually set one of the buttons, which is the already bought button, to true, and we'll turn the buy button to false. So this is the code for that. This is also for true. This is also attached to all the other characters that are in the game right now. And then we've got selected text handler, which is basically just handling the text, the selected text, which is the selected text, which is on the which is one of the children of this parent game object. So you go over here, selected character title 1 over here, then we've got selected text right here. So this basically tells the player that this character is selected. So once we click the button and we select this character, there a selected text, a text which will say selected will appear on the bottom. This is a reference for that. So this only appears if you have selected the character by clicking the button. And this function is for selecting this player. So once we do that, we store the value of the skin in the autoloader, and then we also have the current selected Seeker character over here. We are actually taking a look at what the value is, and then we are actually setting the value, and then we are just giving a debug.log statement to tell in the console which character is selected. Then we have selected text handler here, which again is which again I told you what this does. But then buy Seeker is for when the character is not actually bought, and we run this so that we can actually buy this character. If we go over the other character, which is, sorry, my mouse is troubling me today. This is for the hidden. It's exactly the same script, except that the key values are different. So over here, it's hidden 1 buy key instead of Seeker 1 buy key. So over here we had Seeker 1 buy key because this was the script for the Seeker, and now we have hidden 1 buy key. Let me show you the script for another character, which is this. So you can see for the other character it'll be Seeker 2 buy key. Let me just open these up. It'll be Seeker 2 hidden 2 buy key. So for hidden characters, each and every time we are actually increasing the value, and that's what we're doing. Sorry again, mouse is troubling me. So here are hidden, and there are Seekers. So Seeker, if we take a look at the second character, we click that, it'll be Seeker 2 buy key. Let me just show that to you. So There it is, Secret 2 buy key. There it is. So the keys are being handled here, and all the functions for buying and buying the player and selecting it are all over here. Continuing on, we are actually going to take a look at sharp return button, which is basically just a button to return to the main screen. This is a visual script. So once we are making the visual script, this is basically for handling the screen. So we turn one screen off, the other screen on. These are very basic functions which don't really require much explanation, because they are just visual scripts which will basically just deactivate one screen and activate the other. We also have a shop left button, which is for the left button which is in the shop. So once we click that, it just turns some of the objects on, the other objects off. If you take a look at the main camera, oh yes, so if you take a look at auto loader and game setup, these are the screens that have been passed over here. So these are the screens that are passed. And we have a server selection screen which is not active because this requirement is gone. So this screen always remains inactive. We'll go over to play online random. Over here we've got the autoloader script attached again, which I've explained in the previous section. We've got a main screen which is just responsible for the buttons that you see on the screen. You've seen those in the builds that I've given. This basically just handles the various buttons. So you can see this is a button, this is a text, and that is a button, begin search button. So you can see that these are basically off at start. Then we have the Photon lobby script, which is one of the main scripts. And again, the reason why this zooms automatically is because some of my mouse is not working properly. We'll first go over to Photon lobby. This is a big script, not that big. I mean, it's 90 lines, but it's still big because a lot of callbacks are handled here. So we have a singleton for Photon lobby. Then we have all of the texts and game objects which need to be turned on or off. We are actually connecting using the Photon settings. Right now you're connecting to the Asia server. Once we connect, we are actually going to print connection successful in the console, and then we're going to activate begin search, the begin search text. Over here we're creating a room, and first of all we'll try to join a room. If we cannot join a room, then we'll call this function, which is create a room, and we'll create a room using the settings which we have actually assigned, and these are basically assigned in the inspector. So when right now there are only 2 players. Once we have to increase, we just need to increase this value max players, which is actually inside the script called multiplayer settings, which I'll take a look at later. Once we go over to multiplayer settings, over here you'll see these are the different values that we have given. Right now the max players is 2, delay start is true because this game is delay start, menu scene is 1, and multiplayer scene is 3. This is just a very simple script which is just singleton basically, and this is just telling the game what settings the game is, like what settings the game should actually load with. Once we go into room controller, we'll take a look at this rather large script. And over here we've got a bunch of variables which are just controlling the room. So once we activate this script, what it's going to do is, once a player is inside a room or has joined a room, these entire statements will run. This is just basically telling Photon that, listen, the player has entered, execute these functions. We'll also load, we'll also give the nickname over here. We are going to actually, these are Photon players, we'll add the player to the Photon network list, and we're also actually adding a player and telling the game that it is it should be, well, it should wait for the other player before hitting the before actually counting the time down to start the game. We also have an override function for on player entered room. So this is for the foreign player. As if we are the first player, we become the master client, and then when a player enters, we increment the player list, and then we actually take in we load a player and add them to the lobby, and then once the player is inside the lobby, what we do is we close the room and then tell the game to and then call this function called start game, which is basically going to start the game after the timer runs out. So the timer is being handled in the update function. If it's delay start, we're going to print this out. The game is about to start, and then we're going to actually count down, and when the time to start is less than 0, we'll just start the game. These are all of the if else statements for when the game is not loaded. So when it's not loaded, we basically run these functions or these statements. So, and these are necessary for the proper loading of the game. So even though we have all of these, the problem is that some of the items are created at runtime. So we'll take a look at Photon Network Player. Over here, these are the switch statements, which are for each and every skin of the good character. So first of all, we take a look at avatar components. These are just references to the components that are attached to this game object. We also have Photon View. So once we start, let me show you what is actually going on with the oops. Okay. So we'll take a look at one of these scripts. Let me just find that script where it's loading. Yeah, there it is. Once we create a player, we are going to load the Photon Network Player from the resources folder. The resources folder is over here, then Photon Prefabs, and then we've got Photon Network Player. This is the player that loads once we call create player. The create player function is being called in RPC loaded game scene. And this is actually being loaded in the else statement on scene finish loading. So once we are in the Photon room and we hit start game, we call in Photon Network load level, and once the level is loaded, we instantiate or we spawn the player using the create player function, which is over here. Once the player is created, what we do is we actually have a script attached which is called Photon Player. The Photon Player is responsible for setting the number of the player in the room, as well as setting up a few of the variables here, like selected character hidden, selected character seeker. We take these from the Photon Player, and then we're also using a switch statement loading the correct skin. So we have 5 good skins, and these are being handled over here. We have 4 good skins, and these are being loaded over here. This switch statement is actually loading the correct player. So the player avatar script. The player avatar script is the one that is attached to all of these skins that you see over here, which are part of the resources. And over here we have a few scripts that are handling the control of the player. So this is another large script. We have 2 player states, alive and dead. We'll add more in the future. We have got player states is bad character. This turns true if the character is bad. This is foreign selected seeker. If this is for giving the value of the skin of the foreign player. We have a local player and a foreign player. So if you have a foreign player, you need to know what the foreign selected skin is. So over here we've got a reference to the avatar animator. We've got a reference to my camera, my listener, rigid body, floating joystick, which is the joystick that you see in the screen. If we are the local player, we need to run these statements. And if we are and we also need to give a value to the foreign selected player. In the RPC set room variables, what we are doing is we are sending our my number in room and foreign selected seeker the values of our local player to the foreign player and to all players that are inside the game. So if our number in room is 1, then all the other clients should know that our number is 1. So if it's 1, that means if it's 1 locally, it should be 1 on the foreign players as well. In this not local player, we are just destroying the camera, we're destroying the my listener, and we're destroying the floating game object. Once we are here, we are actually looking at the starting variables, and this is an RPC which will be called on the local player as well as the foreign player. So RPC setting starting variables. This is the photon. This is the RPC for the start, and then here we are setting the state to alive and is bad character to false, because all the characters are good at the start. Once we go ahead with this fixed update, if you're not the local player, we don't want to run this statement. This is an RPC, which is for the RPC player states. So when we are live, we can move, and this is the do move function, just adding a force to the player. Not adding a force, sorry, just actually handling the velocity. This is for the bad characters, which are handled in another script. I'll show that to you. We'll take a look at avatar. So the avatar animation handler, this is the script for handling the animations. So the animations are handled in a variety of ways, but right now we are handling it using an animator. So what we do is we actually also are synchronizing the animation values as well as what the animation is playing using the on-photon serialized view, which is sending the data to all foreign players as well as the local player. We have RPCs for starting and for the fixed update. So what we're doing is basically we are actually going to run the animations based on what based on whether the character is moving or not. So if the character is moving, we are actually going to state handler. This is the state handler. So we are actually going to, if the player is moving, which means movement direction has a value which is passed over here, and this is taking input from the joystick. So once we have an input, we want to run the move animation, and if we are static, which is equal to 0, then we are in idle state. We have got run animations here, which are basically going to run the animations. If we are idle, we're going to just going to say move is 0. So when move is 0, we are just going to play the idle animation, and once we are moving, then the move is given a value which is between 0 and 1 based on the joystick value, and then once the move has a value, it's going to transition to the move animation. This entire switch case is for changing the animation or the animator at runtime to the bad character. So you can see bad controllers are over here, and this animator, which is a reference to the animator of this object, we are changing this by we are changing the runtime animator controller using this switch statement to a bad character controller, and the bad character controllers are passed inside the script. So you can see over here we have got let me just see, there they are, bad controllers. So these are all of the bad controllers that have been passed to the script. They are also available on all the other characters that you see on the resources. So if I click this character, you'll see on the avatar there are also bad characters or bad character controllers are here. So once a bad character number is given, then this function will actually run. We'll go over to the multiplayer scene now. This is the last scene, which is here. So in the multiplayer scene, we have got the autoloader again. We have got setup game. This is a very important script. I'll come back to that. Game setup is the game setup script, which is basically just handling the spawn points. It's just a script which has the spawn points on it. Then we have a setup game script, which is here, and this is responsible for setting the game up. So what we do is we first of all pass set random RPC set random bad characters. We send this to all of the players that are inside the game right now, including local and foreign players. So we have two states. One is the on spawn state and then the teleported state. Okay, so we'll start from the top. So set random bad character. If we go and look at this, set random bad character is only going to run on the master client. Once it runs on the master client, bad character number, this variable is synchronized using the on photon serialized view. So you can see bad character number is synchronized this way. Once it is done on the master client, all the other foreign clients will also receive this bad character number in stream.receive next. So this will be set for all the characters. So if the bad character is, let's say for example 3, then all of the players in the game will know that the third character is bad, so we have to change that to the bad skin and run the functions for that. So once we have done that, we are going to go to on RPC on start, and the RPC on start is basically just a function which is going to set the time to start variable to 10 and set up state to on spawn, which again is for the local and the foreign players. Okay, so once this is done, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the spawn timer, which is going to run in the RPC update, and the RPC update is running for both the foreign and the local player. We've got spawn timer right here, and the spawn timer is basically the timer that you see on the screen that counts down from 10 to 1, and once that is done, we are going to go to teleported state, and we are going to change the texture of the map that is behind, which basically it appears that the characters are teleporting. Actually the texture behind is changing. Once we've done that, we are going to go to set bad character. The set bad character is a simple for each loop, and the for each loop is checking whether the number of the player that is inside the room is equal to the bad character number that the game setup script set. If it is, then we are going to set the player avatar dot is bad character to true, which is a variable inside the player avatar. And this is when it's set to true, it means we're telling the entire game that this is the bad character. Once this is the bad character, we are going to run another for each to check each and every character whether the character is bad or not. If it is bad, then we'll check for the bad character using this statement, and then we are going to go and run an RPC, and we are going to say RPC change to bad character. Although this non-RPC is running as a local function. If we are the bad character, we want to say, if you're not the bad character, we are going to say is good character only on the local player. So we'll only run this if we are the local player. And if we are the local player, we are going to also run this to change the skin of the character based on the local seeker key. But if we are the foreign player, we need to change the skin on the foreign selected seeker key. So this is the value that I was talking about before in this script, which was over here. This is the foreign selected seeker, which is basically the integer value that is set for the foreign players. So that's basically how the game is working, and that's one of the reasons why, because of synchronizing and testing this is the reason why it's taking like a reasonable amount of time. Thank you very much.